Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for viewing my video. In this video, I'm going to do the Bring Browsing Back book tag. I was tagged by Pat at Book Chat with Pat 8668. I'm just going to repeat what Pat said to properly credit the creator of this video. Bring Browsing Back book tag. This tag was created by Karen at Roving Reader. There are 5 prompts in this tag. The first prompt is Magic of Discovery. Share a book you found while browsing that you may not have discovered otherwise. And that book is Diary of a Confused Feminist by Weston. And I do realize this book is an answer to a lot of prompts on a lot of tags. I went to the library to donate some stuff, probably old CDs. And I was just looking at the YA section. And on a cart in front of one of the bookshelves, I noticed this book, and it just interests me, and I got it. It reached out to me. I never saw any booktuber talk about this book. I never saw Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, in either the emails I get from them or the front page when you go on there, or front page of any of the sections. I never saw this book anywhere. So if I didn't go to that library, I doubt I would have gotten this book. And it's actually was a 5-star book for me, and it's in the running for my best book of the year so far. And I'm sure it'll still be in the running at the end of the year. Another is The Hidden Language of Cats, How They Have Us at Meow by Sarah Brown. I saw this book on one of the display tables at Barnes & Noble during a recent visit, I think my last visit there. And it's just, I love cats, so I picked up the book. There are some people I do follow on BookTube. Justin at Triumphal Reads, Fred at ReadbyFred, and Olive at abookolive. This is the kind of book that they might get and talk about, but I never did see them talk about it. I do follow Olive on Storygraph, and after I got the book, I did notice that she had read and reviewed the book, but I never recall seeing it in any of her videos. It was just that visit that I got the book. And this is another book that I didn't see any of the booksellers I mentioned before, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org. I don't ever recall seeing that book on any emails or when I go to their online store. I don't ever recall seeing it. So if not for that visit, I doubt I would have gotten this book. I'm not done with it yet, but I am quite enjoying it. The second prompt is Expanding World. Share a book that has made you view things from a different perspective or exposed you to new ideas. I'm going to mention 3 books together, and you'll see why that I've bunched them together. The books are The Children of Athena by Charles Freeman, The Crown Games of Ancient Greece by David Luntz, and The First Physical Culturist, Ancient Greek Athletics Training and Competition by Dr. Alex Dulap. These books are all thanks to Justin at Triumphal Reads. I doubt I would have heard about them otherwise. These books show how much culture there was in ancient Greece, and they also show how scientific the training of their athletes was. It's not surprising that in school they taught us mainly about the wars, the politics, the important leaders, whether it's emperors or generals, important soldiers. Again, it's not surprising they teach that, but this book showed me that there was much more to their lives then, at least the lives of the well-to-do. That is one thing both books show, that the people that were able to be philosophers, orators, and the people that also were able to be athletes, they generally came from families that had means. But still, there was a lot more to the lives of people then than I might have thought, which is just survival or fighting in wars or things like that. The second book I want to mention is The Mind of a Bee by Lars Chitka. Prior to reading this book, I kind of thought Insects and Other Bugs is kind of being almost like automatons. Everything they did was on instinct. After reading this book, I realized that bees learn and they do make conscious decisions. And I cared about bees more than I would have before. I kind of felt sorry for them that they only live on average about 3 weeks, minus the queen, which the queen can live a lot more. But this book did open my eyes to that. It also made me realize that some of what we would consider lower life forms, there's probably much more to their thought processes in their lives than I thought. Certainly, I've always thought that mammals, especially cats, dogs, monkeys, and certain bird species are intelligent, and there's a lot to them. But I never did think that insects, I never did realize the inner lives of insects, and there's much more to their lives than just living on instinct. The third prompt is open to change. Share a book that has changed who you are as a person or alter your day-to-day habits. This book is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. Prior to reading this book, I had tried a couple of different approaches to decluttering. The most common one, at least in the US, is that you determine whether you've had an item for more than a year, and if you have that item, you consider getting rid of it. And the other one I did was a friend helped me with decluttering. He would bring me an item and I decide whether I wanted to keep it or not. And those approaches, I had some success with them. But when I read Marie Kondo's book and her approach of determining whether something sparks joy, if it does, you keep it, and if it doesn't, you dispose of it in some way, that really spoke to me. I can't really recall where I heard of Marie Kondo or her approach. It was probably when I saw she had a series on Netflix, but I'm not positive. But I really am glad I picked up the book. I've been doing this approach for a while because I did pile up a lot of stuff. So it's an ongoing process. And I have had to modify her approach on occasion simply because as I said, I have so much stuff that I can't really, her approach is basically, say there's an item like clothes, you take all your clothes and put it in a big pile and sort through them, decide what sparks joy and what doesn't. I just had too much of some items, I couldn't do that. I was pushing into like lots of stuff in my room. So I did have to modify it. And she's had to modify it herself too. She developed her approach for Japanese people because she's Japanese herself. But as she was exposed to Western audiences, she had to modify her approach too. One of the things she suggests, I think, is maybe a hard sell to Western audiences. What she says is the items you decide don't spark joy and you're going to get rid of them, you thank them before putting them in say a bag or whatever to dispose of it. That's kind of a hard sell for Western audiences, although I do try to do it myself. You could just interpret it as showing appreciation for the item you had. It served its purpose and now it's moving on, hopefully to somebody else if you're going to donate it or sell it. Her approach has helped me a lot. I still buy more things than I should, especially books. But I view things differently now. And as I said, it's an ongoing process. I'm not where I want to be. But I can definitely see the benefits that when I reach the point I want to get to, just even for my mental health, having less stuff, I'll just feel better about things when things are less cluttered. And that's all thanks to this book and the Con Mary method, which is what she calls her method. The fourth prompt is browse a bookstore, library, or friend's shelves and talk about a book that you found there. I'm going to fudge this a little bit. I think this prompt is intended to be that after I read it, that I go to the library, bookstore, or friend and look at the bookshelves and pick out a book. Because I want to record this and want to release it, this is Tuesday as I record it, I want to release it on Wednesday. I'm going to fudge a little bit. I'm going to talk about a book that I already have that I did get while browsing at the library. That book is The Boy You Always Wanted by Michelle Quash. I got this book on the same visit that I got Diary of a Confused Feminist that I talked about in Prompt 1. I've talked so much about that book that I think I want to talk about this book. Although this book is likely one I would not have known about if I hadn't visited the library either, so I could have included this in Prompt 1. I'm basically just going to say what I said about it before when I reviewed it. This is a YA romance. The two main characters are Francine and Ollie. They're in 11th grade. They're both Vietnamese Chinese, living in America, immigrants. Or their parents were immigrants. I can't recall if they were. Francine is highly devoted to her family. She's a type A person. She works really hard at her schoolwork. She doesn't take time to do things for herself. She doesn't allow herself to feel her emotions. Ollie tries to do enough to get by without making himself notice. He doesn't take chances on things. His parents are a little distant from him. Francine and Ollie were friends before they had a falling out a few years back. Since then, they ignore each other. Francine's maternal grandfather grew up in Vietnam before coming to the U.S. So I guess it was maybe a couple generations back, at least on Francine's side, was an immigrant. He has terminal cancer. He still believes in the customs he grew up with. One of the customs is that the lead man in the family pays respects to the family's deceased ancestors. He had all daughters as his children, and his daughters had all daughters as their children. There's no grandson to take over the paying of respect to the ancestors after he passes. This causes him to feel like a failure. As Francine wants him to be happy, she comes up with a plan to have Ollie pretend to be a ceremonially adopted grandson. It's a bumpy road from there for Francine and Ollie. I really enjoyed the book. The book went deep on family issues. The characters were really fleshed out. I recommend it to people who want to read a YA romance with a lot of depth and complex characters with a lot of issues to work through. And the fifth prompt is tag people. If you watch this video, consider yourself tagged. And unusual for me, I'm actually going to tag some people. As always, it's your choice. I did find this a somewhat interesting and challenging one. I had to think of it. I had to think about my answers. I enjoy doing the tags because a lot of them make me think, really examine my reading. This was one of those. So I'm going to tag Smiti at Booksmitten. I just watched your video where you did the Sir Isaac Newton book tag, and I really loved your answers and your presentation. I'm going to tag Justin at Triumphal Reads, John at Disquieting Dragons, Milena at Milena Milano 8833. And I know, Milena, that you don't post videos yourself, but I'd love to see your answers in my comments. You've done that on several occasions. I enjoy reading your well thought out answers to the prompts you choose to do. I'm going to tag Nix at Nix Reads. Anyway, for those of you who choose to do it, I'm sure I'd be interested in seeing your answers. And if you prefer to answer one or more in the comments, that's fine too. Or not answer it, obviously. That's one reason I hesitate to tag people, because I don't want anyone to think there's an expectation on my part you'll do it. As I said, I enjoy doing tags. They really make me think. And it also applies to when I say, like, anyone who's viewing this video, consider yourself tagged. It doesn't have to be a video. It doesn't have to be all the prompts. Whatever prompts you choose in a video or in my comments, that's all fine. I always like reading people's opinions on books. And in some cases, it opens up a new avenue to learn about a new book or a new author, or even a new way of thinking of things. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos. I hope you're having a wonderful reading week, and I hope you're having a wonderful week in general.